Hello, everyone. I'm Whitney Ortiz, founder of Whole Health Self-Care and host of the Whole Health series. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Justine Bernard. Justine is a physical therapist, gyrotonic and gyrokinesis master trainer, and owner of Elements Fitness and Wellness Center in Washington, D.C. She's a DC native who attended the Alvin Ailey American School of Dance in New York City after college. And while she was dancing there, the direction of her life changed dramatically when she had a very serious back injury. But having this injury really led her into a deep study of the body that she carries forth with her today into her current practices, which she will explain. She started learning and teaching the gyrotonic and gyrokinesis methods, which we're going to dive into. In 2003, Justine received her doctorate in physical therapy from Columbia University and then returned to DC, where she opened Elements Fitness and Wellness Center. She's now a master trainer of the Gyrotonic Method, which is, as she'll explain, a movement practice that has been having profoundly positive effects for people of various abilities and ages. So Justine, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us through the Whole Health series.
Thank you for having me.
To start our exchange here, can you please share with listeners what the gyrotonic method really is and why you chose that particular method along with physical therapy to be your main channels through which you help people to improve their health and wellness?
Yeah, well, first, thank you for that wonderful intro. You said so beautifully. Um, so the gyrotonic method, it is kind of difficult to explain. It's much easier to just try a session and feel it because it's a kind of an internal sensations you get is what's so joyful and rewarding, but I will do my best. So the gyrotonic method, there's kind of two parts, like you mentioned. There's the gyrotonic, which is on equipment, like the piece of equipment behind me. And then there's the gyrokinesis, which is on mats or stools. So no equipment required. And it's a unique method. It has similar principles as yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, acupuncture. So the breathing, the rhythms of breathing and different breathing patterns are incorporated into it, as well as the movement of chi or life force. So energy. So that's one aspect of it. But the creator, Julie Horvath, he was also a swimmer, a ballet dancer, and a gymnast. So these qualities are also ingrained in the system. So we, like you mentioned, we have people coming just for breathing, if they had lung cancer or something, or especially after last year, where breathing is an important aspect of what they want for their bodies, as well as elite athletes and the whole gamut, right? Which is why I love it, because anyone at any movement practice can do it. So, so like you mentioned, I do kind of use the word movement more than exercise. It is an exercise system, but I find the word exercise can be kind of triggering for people. So, I don't know if you remember the presidential fitness test back in PE class where you had to like do pull-ups and push-ups and all these movements. So I find a lot of my patients these days have been traumatized by that program. That was, if you got to miss that in school, that's a good thing. But so they never felt like they were exercisers, or maybe they didn't feel like they were strong enough to go to a gym or something like this. So they find the gyrotonic method very helpful for them to support their unique strengths and their unique bodies and their agility and their flexibility and take them to the highest potential of their being. So that's what I love about the gyrotonic method. I can talk more about, you already mentioned, I found it because I had a back injury and someone said, you have to do this gyrotonic method. And so that's what attracted me to it, in that it's different than, for example, sometimes I go and try other systems just because my patients or clients are doing it and I want to see what they're doing. And they're all wonderful. I think any movement system is a joy to do for the body, unless you approach it, or the studio approaches it from a way of kind of overcoming your body, or
Pushing through, like trying to force
pushing
more than.
through, or trying to even change to be something else, right? So instead of supporting your own uniqueness, you're trying to change. Just like if you're going into an exercise system or a weight loss program where you're trying to make yourself not yourself, then that adds, just like in your field with the stress management, right? So to put exercise on a body that's stressed out in a stressful way, that just creates more stress, right? So, and that additional layering can lead us to injury, and we'll talk about injuries later. But so back to the gyrotonic and movement in general, it's a supportive system that supports your body wherever you're meeting it that day.
I love that.
And then the physical therapy is just another layer to that. So I found the physical therapy because Julie Horvath, who I learned from along with Lita Franklin, he was leaving. I was in New York. He was leaving New York, moving to Florida. And I just felt with him leaving, I needed more science behind it. I needed to be able to be more clear in how I explained to the people I was teaching. So I went back to school for physical therapy for the science, and also so I could bring it to a larger population. So I could take insurance, we take Medicare, and I could just reach more people.
So nice. I love how integrated it all is, and how you've pulled in so many components using the word movement and this kindness approach, really highlighting the importance of this perspective with it all, and the intention that you bring into the practice, and that you're allowing for all people to come together to be kind to themselves and to benefit from all that this particular way of moving can do for you, with the mindset, with the physical aspect. So there's so many influences, right? Can you even maybe elaborate a bit more on kind of how the influences from our lives influence how we're going to be able to move going forward? There's so many elements to that, like figuratively and literally, right?
Yeah. So growing up, how you moved, and the influences how you approach movement now. Yeah. So what I love to see is often my clients, their kids are home from college, and they'll bring their kids in to do some gyrotonic sessions, and how much they move like their parents.
Wow.
It's incredible to see. They stand, they sit, they walk. It's like, wow, you're obviously related. So these or look at like me talking with my hands, right? So these kind of characteristics are so interwoven into who we are, and it's so what brings me so much joy to see. But I was kind of saying, if you approach movement in a way that's stressful or harmful, or or self-hatred, right? Oh, I have to work out so I can eat, like this approach that brings more, it's not a healing environment, can I say, mentally
Like
or
that
physically.
self-loathing, like I have to improve myself to be accepted even by myself, that kind of thing, where you're more in this like welcoming, kindness, care. I love that about your whole perspective and approach to the practice and to the clients who you have.
Yeah. And that can lead into, if you come from a self-loathing approach, then you miss. So as you know, in your practice, right, stress, if you are under a lot of stress, you miss the joy and pleasure. It counteracts that. So if you come from approach of joy and pleasure, then exercise is so much fun and amazing, and it feels good. It's like a yawn, and you yawn, it's actually like, oh, that feels so good. But if you're in a meeting and you can't yawn, you're like, oh, I want to yawn, and it's not so good. So the aspect of yawning is actually big in the Gyrotonic method, so that you see cats, like they don't just yawn, they kind of like, oh, do this big stretch, and it's just so much joy and pleasure just watching them. Yeah. And yeah, so I can talk about injuries and kind of how we approach that. So
Yeah.
it's also a whole body approach, but yeah, so if you come at it from a self-loathing place or trying to conquer your body, then you'll see people in the gym doing squats and lunges, and which are great. Squats and lunges can be great, but if they've had knee pain for 4 months and they're still trying to power through their knee pain and they're not listening, then it's just gonna keep exacerbating, and then the healing process will take longer.
And
And
there's so
so
much kind of misperception, I feel like, out there. And for women who are very driven and wanting to continue to do better, like, oh, if I can just kind of get through these next 10, reps, then my knee will be fine later because this is what I used to do. And then there's this fear often about if I don't do this or what I always used to do, then I'm never going to be back in the shape that I used to be. And so there's just this overlying fear I find around injuries in this physical aspect of building or maintaining one's health and well-being. So it's really
yeah.
great that you're very intentional working with people to say there is a different way to do it and you can gain a lot from it while releasing this fear around an injury or letting it be with you in a way that you can really heal it.
Yeah. Yeah. So fear is huge. Often when someone has their first big injury, they have that fear of, will I not get better? Will I not be my previous self? But it kind of goes back to what we were talking about. There's kind of a systemic outlook of value. If we're relating to this approach that we are valued if we are perfect, or we are valued if we are thin, or if we are valued if we have big muscles, or if we're valued if we don't have injuries, or if we value the systemic kind of what is perceived as important, then the journey of having an injury, you miss it, and it can be so wonderful. So if you have an injury and you take it from a place of, oh wow, this is interesting, this is curious, I'm curious about what is this, so again, I like to do different things just to try them out. And I pushed myself too hard and hurt my knee. But then there was this whole pattern that I never saw before, that, where my sacrum, if I do a certain way, my sacrum goes this way, and then my knee goes that way, my foot goes that way. And I was like, wow, that's so fascinating. So I never hurt my knee. I wouldn't have noticed that pattern, right? So it's hard to release the fear and, that perfectionism, right? But if you do, it can be such an amazing journey, and then we can go more into our unique patterns and what is the potential we've been given in our bodies at this time. So I just find it much more joyful approach to injuries, and a place like you talk, I'm sure you talk about kind of a healing environment, right? If your body's stressed out, or if you're running on empty, you're going to be mad at the world, you'll be frustrated, your fuse is short, all these things. But if you can change your perspective on injuries and filling your tank, then you've created a healing environment. Yeah, so I'm going to digress, but feel free to cut me off. But we watched Marvel last night.
That is such a beautiful transition, because I was looking forward to hearing about your particular personal journey to becoming an entrepreneur and to starting your own gym instead of teaching this practice or these practices as part of somebody else's gym, you said, I'm going to create a healing environment through elements in which you invite people to express this gentle self-love and kindness to themselves in a very welcoming space. And so I'd love to hear, I bet our audience would love to hear how you became an entrepreneur and what kind of studio you have for in-person and virtual classes.
Yeah, so I had mentioned my back injury and going to Studio Riverside, and sometimes I wonder how much was it the Gyrotonic Method, and how much was it her as such a
Mm.
healing human and as such a safe place for me to enjoy movement again. Right, so I loved dancing as a kid. I'd dance all around the living room, and then when I got more into the professional realm of dancing, it was hard. It was very, living. I was trying to live up to a perfect ideal that my body just genetically isn't really supposed to do that, or as opposed to thinking about how it can do that in a way that my body does it. And so both the Gyrotonic Method and Lita Franklin created an environment in her studio where I could heal my back pain. I could dance for many, many more years, even if it is around the living room with my kids, but so I wanted to have that environment as well, a place where people come in and, oh, I've arrived, I'm here, I can relax, I can breathe, I can move. With caring instructors. I love my team right now. It's an amazing team. They all know this. They're all in awe of the amazing human bodies that are just so incredible, the superpowers we have as humans. And yeah, so I've worked at different hospitals. I've worked at a couple clinics, and I worked at a gym. I was a personal trainer for a while, and I just didn't quite feel right, when the milk is almost spoiled and you're like, I don't know. Maybe I should throw this milk out. So that kind of led me to creating Elements, and a place where both the practitioners come together. We really work as a team, and then the clients are, adored. We love our clients, and yeah, a place to come and hang out and move.
Oh, that is awesome. And for those who are also curious, as I am even more about how to try this method and to have it be part of everyday movement, how can people follow your work? And those who are local here in the Washington, D.C. area go in person to classes, and those who are listening from around the world participate virtually.
Yes, so you can come to Elements. We're in Glover Park, DC, so just south of the National Cathedral, north of Georgetown, right on Wisconsin Avenue. And you can call us 202-333-5252 or email us at frontdesk@elementcenter.com. And that's the best way to make an appointment for if you want to do either physical therapy or one-on-one sessions. That's probably the best way to reach us. I think the website will be listed with the podcast, but it's elementcenter.com. And for the Zoom, we have Zoom classes. We have beginner gyrokinesis, which really, again, any level of mover can do. It's not so much beginner in the sense of movement ability, but it's more if you're new to the work or not. And so that's on Zoom, we have that, and in person we have that. We also have Pilates, so we have classes, privates, and Zoom Pilates. We specialize in osteoporosis as well, so we have free osteoporosis support groups, and our Pilates mat classes are osteoporosis friendly. And then, yeah, I think that's everything. I didn't miss anything.
Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much, Justine. This is really wonderful to open up greater awareness on these practices and your particular approach, which is so beautiful and so welcoming, to people from everywhere, which is just so great. And at this time, we're moving through, hopefully, the end stage of the pandemic to really focus on this kindness to self and to be able to move forward through with perhaps a new practice that is all about this kind approach to self-care that you can do from your home or in person as part of building new community too with others who are similarly interested in taking this approach. So thank you so much for sharing about it and welcoming others to join you in this practice through elements.
thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
And for all of the listeners, I invite you to sign up to receive updates of this and similar podcasts, online forums, and email communications that include well-being tips, tools, and techniques by and for women leaders. So please visit www.wholehealthselfcare.com/contact to sign up. Thanks again, Justine. Have a great
Thank
rest
you.
of your day, everyone.